Om Shanti. I welcome all of you to this session, which is a part of the series on the program Stress to Solace. I am Sister Shilpa. I will be conducting these sessions for you. At the outset, I would like to please request you to switch on your videos so that I can see you. I want to talk to people, not to blank screens. So if you could switch on your videos, it would be nice. And secondly, I would like to let you know how to interact with me. So you can write privately in the chat box. So whatever you write will be received privately by me. And then I can answer if there are any queries or questions. But before you send me your queries or questions, I would like to tell you something that if you focus not on writing but on listening, you will get more answers than if you wrote and waited for answers. So you can write your questions at the end of the session, but I would request you to listen more ardently rather than focus on your questions and writing them down more than listening to me. Now, am I audible to all of you? Can you hear me? Just show me your hand and let me know. Okay. So all of you can hear me. Okay. Can you listen to me? Because you can hear me if your computer's audio is functioning well, or your ears are fine and the focus of your ears is on my speech, then you can hear me. But then I want you to listen to me as well. And listening is a little deeper than hearing. So even when you can hear me, you will require something else to listen to me. And what do you require to listen to me? You require an open mind. So first, don't close the doors of your mind and sit. Now, why I'm requesting you to do this is, during this series, I will share with you whatever spiritual wisdom I have received that has enabled me to stay peaceful and stress-free. At this point of time, even in these kinds of circumstances all around me, I'm 100% stress-free and peaceful. And I will like to share whatever attitudes, whatever knowledge, whatever wisdom I have received, which has enabled me to come to this place within myself where I am absolutely carefree, stress-free, and very, very peaceful right now. And I'm sure that if you have come to attend this session, you are a little far from peace. Even if not very far, you are experiencing some kind of stress right now. So when I share whatever I have learned, I would like you to not question that in the first instance, but accept whatever I'm saying and experiment with it. So maybe what you listen to, what you hear in this class, maybe it will be a first time, or maybe it will be not in consonance with what you normally believe or your conventional mode of thinking. But I would request you to give that a chance. Whatever I tell you, I would like you to believe it in the first instance and then experiment with it so that you can come to an experience which is different from the experience you have right now. So there is a very beautiful saying, If you do what you have always done, you will get what you have always got. So, if you go by what you already know, then you will only feel the way you already feel. Now, if you want to feel differently, if you want to experience differently, then you will have to go by something you don't know right now. So when I share things with you and it appears that this is something that I have not heard, or this is something that doesn't sound familiar, so it is okay. So you have to hear things that you haven't heard. You have to know stuff that you didn't know until now, or acknowledge stuff that you didn't acknowledge until now. And when you do that slowly, gradually, you will come to an experience which is not your day to day experience right now. So, with this, I would like to begin. And I would like you to first sit quietly, and I will share some lines and just reflect on them as I speak, and then we will start the session. Sit straight and comfortable wherever you are. Keep your body still and also relaxed. Keep your eyes open, very gently open. And become aware of the world around you. We live in a world which is full of sounds and sights. This is the external world. Just become aware of the many sounds around you. There are sounds of machines, some traffic, some voices around you. The rhythm of the external world is a little noisy. Now gently, slowly, think about the internal world. There is the world of matter outside, and there is a world of my thoughts inside. In the inner realm, there is my mind. Try to hear What's going on in your mind? My mind is thinking. Thoughts come and go in my mind. The noise of the external world finds its way into my internal world. The sounds I hear outside are also resounding in my mind. Apart from that, there are other noises as well. Now just ask your mind to stay quiet for some time. Slowly observe that all the sounds and sights are clearing out of the windows of the mind. And in the mind, there is just a clear space full of white light. This is the light of peace. Just sit in this state where the mind is quiet and full of light. Om Shanti. So, could you do a little of what I asked you to do in the last few minutes? How many were able to do a little? Raise your hand, please. A little, okay, fine. So, no problem. So, we will keep trying, and there is, if you guide your mind a little, or if you try to shift your attention from the external to the internal bit by bit, slowly, gradually, that will start working. So, this is just the first step, and slowly, gradually, we will be able to do it better and better. Fine. So, today I will start with a quotation which I heard some years back, and that has stayed with me and helped me a lot in this journey. So the quote says, God, please grant me the serenity to accept that which I cannot change, the courage to change that which I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So, this is the simplest definition of wisdom that you will ever hear. And here, wisdom is defined as knowing the difference between what you can't change and what you can change. Now, if you see all the stress that you are experiencing in life is mostly because you are trying to control, trying to change that which is out of your control. So, there are situations, there are circumstances on the personal level, physical level, on the level of society, family, profession, on the level of a nation or the whole wide world, which are not in our control anymore. Yes? Do you agree with this? So there are many situations in and around you which are not in your control. They are absolutely out of your control. Let's take the example of the pandemic. So there is nothing you can do about the state of the pandemic right now. So whatever it is outside, it is what it is. And if you look at the repercussions of the pandemic in terms of how it is affecting your job or how it is affecting the status of who you live with right now or who you don't live with right now, who is distant from you or who is living with you under the same roof, or what kind of conveniences are available to you, what kind of conveniences are not available to you. These things are not in our control anymore. So it is what it is. Now let's come to the second thing. What can we control? Now, there is one issue of acceptance of what we can't control, and another is doing what we can. So, taking proactive action in the areas that are still in our control. Now, here I would like to share another quote with you. There is a very beautiful quote which says, "You cannot move one finger without disturbing all the stars." So, we human beings have such immense power in us that when we move one finger, the whole arrangement of the stars is also changing. So, what I want you to appreciate is we have the power of thought, word, and action. And every thought that you take, every word that you speak, and every act that you perform is affecting the world around you. So, one thing is that you don't have a control over the situation in the world right now. And second thing is you have control over your own thoughts, words, and actions. And if you take charge of that, then you have some control over the external world also. Because when you take charge of your own thoughts, words, and actions, then since they affect the world outside, then you also are able to influence the world in some way by taking ownership of your own thoughts, words, and actions. Right? But what we have started doing is we have shifted all our focus, our entire energy on things external to us which we cannot control. And in doing so, we have not paid any attention to our own thought, words, and actions, which are in turn affecting the world outside. So, which means that rather than contributing positively to the world, we have been party to making the world a worse place because we are coming from a place of reaction rather than proactive action. So, what do I mean by that? So, if you took charge of your mind, words, and actions, you could make the world a better place. But if you focus your thought, words, and actions on things that you cannot control, then you are actually empowering the worst state of the world right now. So there is this law which says wherever attention goes, energy flows, and that thing grows. So, since all our attention and energy is focused on things we cannot control and things that are actually in a messed up place right now, we are adding to the mess by focusing our attention on it. So, first, we need to pull our attention from where we are focusing it right now and bring it to ourselves, bring it to factors that are in our control so that we can contribute to a better world by taking charge of my own thought, word, and action. Now, I will share one incident with you to substantiate a little whatever I have been speaking. So you remember there was this incident of in Pulwama a little while ago, and there was this surgical strike and all, and then we had conducted a program on this Pulwama incident, and there was one brother we invited to that program. He was a brigadier, and I happened to ask him that in times of crisis, so mostly we were talking about emergency like situation at that time, but then in times of any crisis, I asked him, so as an army man, so what do you think that if there is a war or there is a crisis, what is the best contribution we as civilians can make during that war or crisis? So then he said, you see, sister, everybody should continue doing what they are doing in the best possible manner they can for any crisis to be overcome. So if you are making shoes, keep making shoes. Keep making good shoes, better shoes, and best shoes. If you are cooking, keep cooking in the best possible manner. If you are working in the government or the private sector, do justice to the work that you are doing. Do it very diligently. Then I said, does it help the people on the front if we do our work well? Then he said, yes. So it contributes in two ways, he told me. First, it contributes in the manner that when you focus on your work, you add to the strength of the country or the economy, and then the resources for war are available. And second is you stop doing the work of the person on the border. So you allow him to do his work, because most of the time, when you are trying to do his work or you are trying to correct what he is doing, then all your focus or all your energy of correction is actually having a counterproductive effect on their work, and they are not able to do it well because there are so many people who are thinking about them and who are thinking about how they could do it better than what they are doing right now, and this is how we are sabotaging their work. So he told me these two things, that when you do what you are entrusted to do in a good manner, then you are doubly contributing to people who are directly engaged in dealing with the crisis situation. Now, if you look at the world around you right now, there is a crisis situation, although it's not a war, but it's not less than a war. It's a war of a different kind. And then you see, what are we doing all day? We are switching on the TV, or we are listening to news in other forms, and then we are all talking about how this person could do that work better, or how the government should work, or how the healthcare industry should work, or how this politician should behave differently or act differently. And then in doing so, what are you doing? You are not doing the work you should be doing. So you can either do your work or their work. You can't do both. So whenever you are having a comment or having an opinion on what other people are doing and whether they are doing it accurately or badly, then in those moments you are not doing your own work. So there is work that you need to do. There are things that you need to attend to. Maybe your immediate family, maybe your own mind, maybe something that you can contribute to in your vicinity or wherever you are situated or located, and you are not paying attention to that. And I have seen many people who are pointing out at other people wearing masks or doing other stuff, and they themselves skipping wearing masks on other occasions. So it's like, you have become the policeman for the other, and you are not interested in policing yourself in similar situations. So what we need to understand here is that we are in a crisis situation, and the best thing we can do is focus on my thought, my word, and my action, because this is something that is in my control, and this is a very powerful tool to change the world around me. So, unplug from what you can't control and plug into what you can control. This is wisdom. So, if you ask me, I don't think there is a better definition of wisdom than this, that you focus on things that you can control and just disconnect or dissociate or detach from things that you can't control. And if I ask you to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, how many of your points or how much of your time is consumed in thinking about others and what they are doing and what they are not doing accurately and appropriately, and about the past and about what could happen and what would happen, all of which is not in your control. So do you understand that the past, the future, and the other, all three of them are not in your control? And how many of your thoughts or how much of your time and mental space is consumed in thinking about these? So, how many say it is more than 90%? So, more than, and I know this for sure, that more than 90% of all our time, energy, and thought is consumed in creating a commentary or having an opinion about other people, about how the past could have been better or what could happen or would happen tomorrow. But in those moments, 90% of the time, we are wasting and not using it productively to contribute to a better world at this and in this moment. So all those moments when you are focusing on the past, future, and the other, that moment is slipping out of your hand, and you are not making good use of it to make a better world. So the first lesson that we need to learn is bring the focus to yourself. Do you know that I have a problem with once wrote a blog on this, and I will share this with you. There are people who criticize others, and there are people who criticize those who criticize. Okay, so there are people who will say that this government is not doing this work properly, or this healthcare industry is not doing its work properly, or this policy maker is taking a wrong decision. So they are criticizing those people. And then there are other people who say, I want peace, and this person doesn't stop criticizing, and they are criticizing all the time. So I am not able to stay peaceful because this person doesn't stop at all. So then you see, both of them are peaceless. So one is criticizing the other person, and the other is criticizing the criticism of the other person. But then both of them are not able to stay in peace. So, what we need to understand is we don't have to criticize either people or those who criticize. What we need to understand is we need to choose peace. So, even if you are surrounded by people who are doing things that you think are wrong, you need to choose peace. You need to come to a place of acceptance that some things are not in your control. Now, there are situations, for example, when it becomes difficult to discern what is in your control and what is not in your control. Let's say you have a child, and that child is only 12 years of age. So you presumably think that that child is in your control. And then you try to control that child and put in a lot of energy. And then sometimes you feel that no, you are wasting your energy and that child is not in your control. Now, who is in my control and who is not in my control is a very big question. So, should we just stop saying anything to anyone and just continue, let them do whatever they want to do and just go on with our business? Or should we intervene or interfere or, share our opinion? Or should we try to correct? Or should we not say anything at all? So, this is one question that pops up most of the time when we talk about what is in our control and what is not in our control. So, you need to fix a limit. So, you need to fix a limit on how much you would tell the other. So, one thing is you need to fix a limit on the quantity of conversation you want to have about anything. For example, you see something going wrong around you. You think that if this person changed this behavior in this way, then he would be better off. Yes, it is your duty to share this with that person and you let them know that if you did this better, in my opinion, you will be better off. But then you have to fix a limit on how many times you want to tell that person, and also fix the quality of your conversation, because 90% of our communication is non-verbal. So, what you say is communicated 10%, and the energy with which you speak has 90% impact in that conversation. So, when you are trying to tell your child or your spouse or your colleagues or anybody for that matter around you that it would be better, and I think, in my opinion, if you work this way and not this way, the results would be better, then first come to a place where you are not coming from disgust or desperation or anger or bitterness or complaint or criticism. You are coming from a place of respect and acceptance for the other. Because when you want to communicate something to the other person, then your energy should be that of communication and not of rejection or disrespect. So, this is something that you first check and ensure. And second is, how many times do you say is also important. So, you say something and then you have faith that they will work it out. So, sometimes we say something and then we say it 10 times, and then in saying it 10 times, we sabotage it and it doesn't have the effect that it should have. So we need to say something and then have faith that this, whatever I communicated to the other person, will be accepted by them, and have faith and just let that seed germinate. So you have planted a seed, Have faith, don't say it too many times and sabotage it. So check your energy, communicate properly, and then don't sabotage your words or your whatever you communicated by telling it 10 times or repeating it 10 times. This is also one practice that you need to have. Let's say, for example, now that you and I are talking to each other, now, if I every day keep telling you what you need to do, and then I tell you that, you see, I'm telling you, but I know that you would not have done it. So do it today. And I know that you are good for nothing, but I will still keep telling you. So, what I'm doing is I'm telling you to be better, but I don't have faith that you will be better. And both of these things are getting communicated. And then it is like from the same source, you are receiving two contradictory messages. And so the messages are not working. So, this is something you need to understand in your communication with the other. Now, why do we do this? So, why do we, whenever we are deciding on what we can control and what we can't control, where is the mistake that we make very often? So, I would like to point that out. Now, let me give you four words. There are four words: right, wrong, positive, and negative. Okay, so right, wrong, positive, and negative. Now, if somebody is right, thinking negative about them is wrong, correct? If somebody is right, then thinking negative about them is wrong. This is something that we understand. But if somebody is wrong, thinking negative about them is, if somebody is wrong, then thinking negative about them is, mostly in your opinion, right. So this is how it works. So we think that if somebody is right, then if I'm thinking negatively about that person, that is wrong. But then if somebody is wrong, then thinking negative about them is my moral duty. Not only right, but mostly my moral duty. And this is why sometimes when you sit with your friends, you tell them, this person is so wrong. Don't you get angry when you see his actions? Doesn't your blood rage, or don't you feel that fit of anger? And don't you feel very negative about this person? And how can you just sit so peacefully when this person is doing so much of wrong? So we not only think that thinking negative about somebody's wrong is right, but we also think that it is our moral duty to think negative about somebody who is wrong. And we think we are doing some kind of duty or fulfilling some kind of an obligation or some kind of something that we should do when we think negatively about somebody who is doing something wrong. But one must understand that if you want to correct somebody, it requires a lot of positive energy. You cannot correct anybody by being negative about them. So, and whenever you want to understand any law, introspection is a very good way of learning laws. So just go within yourself and ask yourself one question. If somebody was always negative about you, they never spoke right about you or thought right about you, or never thought about you or spoke about you respectfully or lovingly, would you be affected by their words? So if somebody always said you are a bad person or you are good for nothing or you are a burden on me, and then they asked you or wanted you to behave in a certain manner, would you oblige them by changing your behavior? You would never do that. Why? Because when somebody is negative towards you, they lose their power over you. So, when you want to correct somebody who, in your opinion, is wrong, you need to have power over them. And you cannot have power over anybody by coming from a negative place. Only when you come from a place of love, respect, acceptance, and bonding can you have power over somebody where they listen to you and try to correct themselves because you are saying something that needs to be corrected in them. So, this is something that you can introspect and learn. And whenever you see somebody is doing something wrong and you want them to correct, it is very necessary to understand this law that even if somebody is wrong, you being negative is still wrong. Because when you become negative, you also become wrong, and two wrongs never make a right. So if they are wrong and you are negative, you are also wrong. And then you cannot make a wrong right with a wrong. So then two wrongs never make a right. So when somebody is wrong, you need to be right, which means you need to be positive. You need to be peaceful and loveful if you want them, you want to correct them, or you want them to come to a better place. So, this is why it is very important that you pay attention to your thoughts, the quality of your thoughts, the quality of your words, and the quality of your actions. Because when the quality of your thoughts, your words, and your actions is good, when the quality of your thoughts, words, and actions is positive, then it definitely has an impact on the world around you. So it's not just about being loveful or respectful, it is also about being peaceful, about being happy, about being tolerant, about being patient, about being humble and polite. It's about all these good qualities. And when you are in your good qualities, you will be able to influence the world. Right now, the opposite is happening. What is the opposite? The negativity in the external world is making you negative. But what needs to happen is the positivity in your internal world needs to make the external world positive. So, right now it is outside in. So, the flow, what is the flow? It is outside in. What is outside is causing disturbance inside. But you need to turn the flow and make it inside out. So you need to come to a place where, come what may, whatever the state is outside, I stay peaceful and hence make my surroundings peaceful or have a peaceful impact on my surroundings. Now, I would like to end today's session with a few thoughts on this word peaceful. Now, you see, there is a notion in us which is somewhat like no reaction means no action. So, when people talk about being peaceful, mostly, you think about being peaceful in a very laid back fashion, like not doing anything. So not talking, not acting, not doing anything. That is peaceful. So peaceful is like some kind of yogi who is sitting with eyes closed all day and just focusing on his breath and has got nothing to do with the world. And whenever you think about action, it is always peaceless. So there is a notion in us which says no reaction means no action. But what I have learned on this journey is there is something called peaceful, positive, powerful, and purposeful action. So you can be in action and you can still be peaceful. You can think and think in peace. You can speak in peace. You can act in peace. So there it is not necessary that when you are peaceful, you are not doing anything. So there is a concept of karma yoga, which means incorporating yoga in karma. So when we say yoga or meditation, where people will say it's a state of mind. So you can be in whatever state of mind you want to be while being in action. So you can still work, you can talk, you can walk, you can communicate, interact, and you can come from a place of peace and stability within. So it's not necessary that you have to stop work, stop talking, sit in one corner, and only then you have to be peaceful. So you can be talking, you can be walking, you can be communicating, working, and you can do everything in peace. So, according to the wisdom that I'm sharing with you, it is said that you have to be Karam Yogi, which means that you have to incorporate your yoga in your action, which is a peaceful state of mind, a happy state of mind, a powerful state of mind can accompany action. So you can be in action and be peaceful, happy, and powerful in your mind. Do you think this is possible? Do you think this is possible? Yes, it is possible. And do you think you want to be this way? Because, see, we are all living in households. You are living in households, and I am also a householder. I am also living in a household. So, we are all living in households. We do not intend to go to the sannyas marg and take some sannyas. So, we are all not sannyasis and we do not intend to be sannyasis. So, what we are trying here is not just sit and be peaceful, but be peaceful while we are in action. And how does that happen? That happens when you understand that your mind is a separate machinery than your hands. So your hands can work and your mind can be at peace. Have you seen a phenomena where your hands are quiet? So you are sitting in a quiet place, just like when we started meditating in the beginning, you were all sitting quietly. Your body was still, but was your mind restless? Yes, mind was restless, right? So your body was still, but your mind was restless. So it means that the body and mind are two separate things. So if the body can be still and the mind can be restless at the same time, then the vice versa is also true, that the mind can be still and the body can be active. Yes, if this is true, that can also be true. Right now, it is this way. So, even when the body is still, the mind is restless. We want to come to a place where even when the body is not still, the mind is absolutely still. So, even when you're working with your hands or talking with your mouth, your mind can be peaceful. But for that, you have to first explore this idea that your mind and your body are two separate things. Yes, right now we don't make a distinction between the two. We don't think of ourselves as two, we think of ourselves as one. So we say, if I'm working, how can I be peaceful? Or if I'm talking, how can I be peaceful? But the thing is, your body and your mind are separate. That is why you are called a human being or a Jivatma. So, human being means humus plus being. So, there is a humus part, there is a physical part to you, and there is also a being part, which is the mind and other faculties. So, this is why you are two things. You are a humus plus a being. So, when you separate the two, then you will be able to have more control over your mind. We will talk about separating the two and training the mind more tomorrow. Okay. So, today I want you to think about whether even when somebody is wrong, you should be positive about them, and also about how your mind is in a negative place most of the time because of this notion of right and wrong, and keep changing whenever you can your thought process. And I will conduct a meditation similar to what you did in the beginning, and try to focus more on separating your internal world from the external world. And we will explore more in the coming sessions. Okay. Om Shanti. There is a question, I think, or a comment. Let me read it out. Didi, when we focus on ourselves, sometimes we keep on thinking about dreaming about our future. Means dreaming compulsively about situations in certain positive way. Is it good to continuously think about that? They say what you think continuously, so shall you become. Is it daydreaming? Okay, so you see, there has to be balance between what you think, what you speak, and what you act. So if you are continuously thinking about a good future, good. But then you also need to complement it with commensurate action and words. So it's not like you just keep thinking about good future and your actions are not going that way. So if you keep sitting, who will create that future? So conceptualization and creation both have to be done by you. Only conceptualization won't help. Similarly, only creation also won't help. If you just keep working and you think negatively, that also won't help. And if you just keep thinking positively and there is no action, that also won't help. So you have to balance thought, word, and action. That is why it is called Om. Om means A, U, and M, action, utterance, and mind. These three have to be in balance. Your action should match your utterance, and that should match your mind. So, this is basically when we say Om Shanti means all the three are peaceful. Because only when all three of them work together can there be success. Okay? Om Shanti. Let's meditate for some time. Sit quietly again. My body is still. Every organ of my body is absolutely calm. This is my body, which is still in the moment. Now let me take my attention to my mind. My mind is like a small space behind my eyes. In that space, There are a lot of thoughts going on. Now slowly create an image of all those thoughts going out of the window and your mind space filling up with soothing white light. Behind my eyes, there is my mind space, which is slowly getting filled with very soothing white light. This light is the light of peace. Now just relish this moment when your body is still and your mind is peaceful. Sit in this feeling for some time. Om Shanti.